There's a $2 liquid that can take dead, gray, sun-bleached wood and make it look alive again in minutes. Not with a glossy plastic coat, not with a thick film that cracks and peels, but with something older, quieter, and far more permanent than most modern miracle products. It doesn't work because it's a secret ingredient. It works because it's the exact thing wood has been missing. Oil. Wood doesn't age the way people think. It doesn't just get dirty. It doesn't just fade. It dries out, the fibers break down under UV, the surface oxidizes, and the grain turns into a thirsty, open sponge that no shiny topcoat can fix unless you rebuild the surface first. And for decades, the industry trained you to do the most profitable thing possible. Sand it all down, buy expensive stains, buy expensive sealers, buy a new can every season, and repeat the cycle until you finally give up and replace the wood completely. They prayed you'd forget there was another way. Because in 1939, long before deck restorers and boutique finishes and influencer products, the solution was already sitting in plain sight. Not in the paint aisle, not in the premium shelf section, in the most boring corner of the store, where nobody goes unless something has already gone wrong: a drying oil. A solvent and a method that doesn't create a brittle coat on top of wood, but feeds the wood itself and then hardens inside it. This is the formula that got buried not because it didn't work, but because it worked without locking you into a constant purchase cycle. So here's the promise of this video, and I'm going to make it clean. By the end of this, you will know what the $2 liquid is, why it makes old wood look new, how to apply it so it actually lasts, and the exact mistakes that make people say linseed oil is useless. And you will also know the one danger that can burn your garage down if you treat this like a harmless household cleaner. Because this method is powerful, and it deserves respect. Let's start with what people see. You see weathered wood and you think the wood is ruined, a fence that looks chalky, a deck that turned gray, a door that lost its warmth and looks flat, a tool handle that feels like dry bone. You scrub it, you pressure wash it, you bleach it, it gets lighter, cleaner, and somehow even worse. Because you just stripped away whatever oils were left and raised the fibers even more. That is why so many restoration videos look good for one day and terrible after one rain. They cleaned the wood, they didn't restore it. Restoring wood is not primarily cleaning, it's reconditioning and sealing the structure of the fibers so the surface stops acting like a moisture pump. Wood is a bundle of microscopic tubes. When it dries, those tubes empty out. When it gets wet, they fill. That expansion and contraction is what cracks finishes and splits boards. The surface goes through stress cycles and the top layer slowly breaks apart. A film finish dries to build armor on top. A penetrating oil finish tries to change the wood itself. That is the difference. And it's why this old method can make neglected wood look like it was replaced without you actually replacing anything. So what is the $2 liquid? It's a simple penetrating oil blend built around boiled linseed oil, cut with a solvent so it actually penetrates deep instead of sitting sticky on top. That's it. Boiled linseed oil is a drying oil. Drying doesn't mean it evaporates like water. It means it cures by reacting with oxygen and polymerizing, hardening into a solid network over time. When you apply it correctly, the oil moves into the surface, darkens the grain, restores contrast, and then cures inside the wood pores. The wood looks richer, smoother, and less chalky because light is no longer scattering off dry, fractured fibers. The solvent is the key that people ignore. If you wipe straight boiled linseed oil onto very dry outdoor wood, it can sit on the surface and cure slowly. It can get tacky. It can attract dirt. People blame the oil, but the oil wasn't the problem. The penetration was. Cutting it with a solvent, traditionally turpentine, sometimes mineral spirits, lets the mixture soak in like water, carrying the oil with it, then evaporating out and leaving the oil behind to cure. That is why this mix feels like it erases weathering. Because it doesn't paint over it. It refills the surface. Now let's hit the first rehook. If you only remember one line from this entire script, remember this: most modern wood restorers are cosmetics. This liquid is nutritious and structured. It doesn't create a fake new surface. It revives what's already there and hardens inside it. That is why you can use it on things stains don't fix well, like tool handles, old trim, antique wood, dried out frames, and rough boards that would look terrible with a shiny film coat. But we need to talk about the forever claim, because I'm not here to sell you a fantasy. Nothing outdoors is forever. Sun, rain, and temperature swings will always win eventually. What forever means in this context is that you're no longer trapped in the cycle of peeling and sanding and stripping. A film finish fails dramatically. It cracks, it peels, it looks worse than bare wood, and then you pay with labor. A penetrating oil finish fails quietly. it wears away, it fades, it dries, and you refresh it without scraping the whole surface. That difference is everything, because your time is worth more than a can of finish. Now let me show you the exact way this works, step by step, without turning it into a complicated workshop ritual. First, you choose the target. If it's a tool handle or interior wood, this is easy. If it's a deck, fence, or outdoor furniture, you have one job before you touch oil. Get the surface dry. Oil over wet wood is not restoration, it's sealing moisture in. So if you pressure washed yesterday, do not oil today. Let the wood dry fully. Then you clean, but you clean correctly. You don't need harsh chemicals. You need to remove loose fibers, dirt, and chalky oxidation so the oil can actually contact wood, not dust. A stiff nylon brush is often enough. If the surface is rough and gray, a light pass with a sanding sponge or fine abrasive pad is enough. You're not sanding down to new wood, you're just opening the grain and removing the dead layer that blocks penetration. Then you mix the liquid. The classic mix is equal parts boiled linseed, oil, and turpentine. If you don't have turpentine, mineral spirits also works as the thinning carrier. The point is not the brand. The point is penetration, and then you apply it generously, but not lazily. People either wipe too little, or they flood it and walk away. Both are wrong. You apply enough that the surface looks evenly wet. You let it drink for a few minutes. On thirsty wood, it will vanish. You add more where it soaks in immediately. Then, and this is critical, you wipe off the excess. Any oil left sitting shiny on the surface becomes a dust magnet and a sticky mess. It also cures unevenly and can wrinkle. The goal is oil in the wood, not oil on top of the wood. So after a short soak, you wipe it down until it looks rich, not glossy. If you're working on a handle or furniture, you can buff it lightly. If you're working on outdoor wood, you leave it to cure in airflow. That is the simple version. But here's how you make it last longer. You do not try to do it all in one coat. The first coat is a rescue coat. It soaks into the driest fibers. The second coat is where the look changes dramatically, because the wood is no longer completely starving. The third coat is where the surface becomes consistent and more resistant. You can do those coats over a few days, depending on temperature and airflow. The goal is, each coat goes on, soaks, and then you wipe it dry. No puddles, no thick layers. Now, there's a trap that ruins everything and makes people think this method is fake. They oil over mildew, or they oil over algae, or they oil over dirt. Oil will darken whatever is on the surface. If your fence has black staining from biological growth, oil will make it look worse, not better. So don't confuse weathered with contaminated. If you have mildew, you treat the mildew first and let the surface dry completely before oil. Now let's talk about why this got buried culturally. Because the wood finishing world shifted from maintenance to replacement. Old systems were designed around refresh cycles. You maintain surfaces the way you maintain leather. You feed it, you wipe it, you renew it. Modern marketing sells finishes as set it and forget it, and then punishes you when you forget it by turning failure into a giant sanding job that makes you buy new products. It's not just about chemistry, it's about behavior. A finish that wears away gently cannot create panic. A finish that peels creates panic, and panic sells. Now the secondary hook, because this is where people either become dangerous experts or state-wrapped forever. The $2 liquid isn't the only thing you need to know. You need to know what not to do with it. Because boiled linseed oil has a real hazard that can start fires. Rags soaked with drying oils can generate heat as they cure. If those rags are wadded up, piled together, or thrown into a trash can with sawdust, that heat can build until ignition happens. This isn't internet paranoia. It's a known risk in woodworking and finishing. So your rule is simple. After you use any rag with boiled linseed oil, you do not throw it in the trash. You either lay it flat outside on a non-flammable surface until it fully dries hard, or you submerge it in water in a metal container, or you dispose of it according to safe local practice. If you ignore this, the cheapest wood restoration method on earth becomes the most expensive fire you've ever seen. Now let's get practical about what this works on, because any wood is a strong claim, and I want you to win with this. This method shines on dry, thirsty wood that looks faded, gray, or flat, fence boards, deck railings, pergolas, tool handles, outdoor chairs, old trim that's been stripped, wood that still has structure but lost its soils and color. But if the wood is rotten, oil will not resurrect it. If the fibers are punky and soft and you can push a screwdriver into it, that board needs replacement. Oil can darken it and make it look temporarily better, but it won't rebuild missing structure. Also, if your wood already has a thick plastic film finish, polyurethane, heavy varnish, thick paint, oil won't penetrate it. This is not a miracle that goes through sealed plastic. Penetration needs access. So if you have peeling film, the best time to switch to this method is after you remove what's failing and you want something that won't peel again. Now let's address the part everyone cares about, the new wood look. What makes new wood look new is not just color. It's contrast. Dry wood becomes pale and chalky because the surface scatters light. Oil changes that by filling the microstructure and changing how light passes through the fibers. Grain lines sharpen, warm tones return, the wood looks deeper. That is why a single wipe can look like a transformation. But the real value is not the first hour, it's the next season. Because when oil is inside the wood and cured, water doesn't move through the surface the same way. The wood still gets wet, but it doesn't swell and dry as violently. It sheds water better, it stays more stable, and stability is what makes wood last. Now let's talk about the since 1939 line in the title. The point isn't that someone in a lab invented linseed oil in 1939. Linseed oil has been around for a very long time. The point is that by the late 1930s, wood science and industrial finishing research had already mapped out what works on wood surfaces over time. Penetrating oil systems, water repellents, maintenance cycles, and the reality that clear film finishes outside fail fast. Those lessons weren't hidden because they were wrong. They were buried under the louder promise of modern coatings. And once coatings became a consumer business, the quiet old methods got rebranded as old-fashioned, temporary, grandpa's trick, the kind of thing you do when you can't afford the real solution. But the truth is, the real solution for a lot of exterior wood is the one that doesn't peel. Now, here is the part where you take control. You can treat this like a one-time viral hack, or you can treat it like a system. If you want wood to look new long-term, you refresh before it looks bad. One light maintenance coat once in a while beats one heavy rescue job every few years. That's how you escape sanding. That's how you escape peeling. That's how you escape replacement. Now I'm going to give you the cleanest application rhythm, said out loud like, you're about to do it today. Choose a small test area first. Clean it. Apply the thinned oil. Let it soak briefly. Wipe it dry. Let it cure. Look at it in sunlight the next day. If it feels dry and looks rich, do a second coat. If it stays tacky, you used too much or didn't wipe enough. Wipe again with a clean rag to remove excess. When it's right, it won't feel greasy. It will feel like wood, just better. And if you're doing outdoor wood and you want extra protection, you can choose to top it later with an appropriate exterior system, but you don't have to. For many people, the beauty is the simplicity. No film, no crack, no peel, just refresh. Now, one more warning that saves people from disappointment. Linseed oil darkens wood. That's a feature, not a bug. But if you're trying to keep wood pale and raw looking, this will not do that. It will warm it. It will deepen it. It will make it look like healthy wood again. And on certain woods, it will amber over time. That's normal. If you want a lighter look, you use a different finishing strategy. Don't fight the chemistry. Now I'll close this vault the same way the industry never closes theirs, with honesty. This method won't make rotten wood immortal. It won't eliminate all maintenance outdoors. And it won't excuse ignoring water drainage, ground contact, or structural moisture problems. But it will do something most modern consumer finishes don't do anymore. It will restore appearance without locking you into sanding. It will protect by penetration instead of plastic armor. And it will let you maintain wood like a living material, not a disposable product. If this opens something for you, subscribe, because the next vault goes deeper: old formulas, maintenance systems, and the techniques that don't sell well because they don't create dependency. And if you use this method, remember the real rule. Oil on wood is easy. Oil on rags is dangerous. Lay them flat. Soak them in water. Dispose safely. That single habit is the difference between restoring your house and lighting it on fire. They prayed you'd forget. Now you know why it works, and now you know how to do it right.